Hi guys, welcome back to this channel. So our topic for today is all about accounting for bad debts. So magagamit lang itong topic na to, of course, sa accounts receivable. Because kapag sinabi nating bad debts, yan yung mga accounts receivable natin na medyo alanganin na yung collection. So here, sa accounting for bad debts, meron tayong dalawang methods na ginagamit. Meron tayong tinatawag na allowance method. And then meron tayong dinatawag na direct write-off method. Allowance method is the one that is generally accepted, and therefore, direct write-off method is not a generally accepted accounting principle. So what's the journal entry here? Just in case doubtful na yung collection. So if yung collection ng accounts receivable natin is doubtful na, under the allowance method, the journal entry is debit doubtful accounts expense, and then credit allowance for doubtful accounts. While under the direct write-off method, we no long on the other hand, under the direct write-off method, we don't normally record an expense if the collection is just doubtful. Meaning, under the direct write-off method, we have no entry kapag doubtful pa lang yung collection. Next, what will be the journal entry if the accounts or the AR are now proven worthless? Under the allowance method, the journal entry is to debit allowance for doubtful accounts and then to credit the accounts receivable account because kapag proven worthless na yung AR, asahan mo na kailangan mo nang bawasan yung AR. Under the direct write-off method, on the other hand, the journal entry here is to debit bad debt expense and then to credit accounts receivable. Meaning, under the direct write-off method, nagre-record tayo ng expense only kapag nag-write-off na tayo ng AR. Then last, what if nagkaroon ng recovery? Then under the direct write-off method, the journal entry here is to debit AR, credit bad debt expense if same year, or credit gain on recovery kapag hindi na same year. Then debit cash, credit AR kasi makokolekta na rin yan. So these are the journal entries and these are the differences between the allowance method and the direct write-off method. So focus ngayon tayo sa allowance method because once again, ito yung generally accepted accounting principle. So how to compute the allowance for doubtful accounts at the end of the year? So here, allowance for doubtful accounts at the beginning is our starting point. So from our journal entries, nung nagkaroon ng doubtful accounts expense, kinredit natin si AFDA. Take note that the normal balance of the allowance for doubtful accounts is credit. So habang kinikredit mo siya, nadadagdagan siya. So since kinredit mo siya nung nag-record ka ng doubtful accounts expense, doubtful accounts expense now is actually added in our computation. Nung nagkaroon ng write-off, dinebit mo naman siya. So kung ang normal balance niya is credit, every time na dinidebit mo siya, nababawasan siya. So minus write-off now in our computation. And then lastly, nung nagkaroon ng recovery, anong nangyari? Kinredit mo si AFDA, therefore, recovery is an item of addition. So this is now the computation of the allowance for doubtful accounts at the end of the year. Next, alamin natin kung paano i-compute si accounts receivable. So our starting point will be the accounts receivable at the beginning plus the credit sales. Bakit natin ina-add ang credit sales? Because the journal entry kapag nagkaroon ng credit sales is debit AR credit sales. Next, ibabawas natin dito yung collection. Bakit binabawas yung collection? Because the journal entry kapag nagkaroon ng collection is debit cash, credit AR. So kinikredit natin si AR kaya nababawasan yung AR. Ibabawas din natin dyan si sales discount because minsan kapag naka-receive tayo ng collection that is within the discount period, yung cash dito, as discussed in my previous video, naka-net na yan. Therefore, meron pa tayong additional debit and that's the sales discount account. Ibig sabihin, para kumpleto ang mai-deduct dito na AR, dapat i-deduct mo rin si sales discount. Then minus sales returns and allowances because the journal entry here is to debit sales returns and allowances, then to credit accounts receivable. So, nababawasan din yung AR kapag meron tayong sales returns and allowance. Then lastly, credit write-off or written off accounts. Why? Because kapag nagra-write-off tayo, kinikredit mo din si AR. So, minus write-off now, and this will be the computation of the accounts receivable at the end of the year. Now, there is a question. Sir, bakit po yung recovery hindi mo inad or hindi mo minus? Explain natin to. Nung nagkaroon ng recovery, dinebit mo si AR. Tama ba? But at the same time, kinredit mo din si AR. Ibig sabihin, kapag dinebit mo si AR at kinredit mo si AR, ng same amount lang ang gamit mo, asahan mo that recovery will not affect the total accounts receivable. Eh, sir, bakit po yung allowance for doubtful account na apektuhan? Kasi kinredit mo siya and then at the same time, hindi mo naman siya dinebit dito. So, recovery will not affect AR, but it will affect the allowance for doubtful accounts at the end of the year. So, these are the useful formula on how to compute the AFDA at the end as well as the accounts receivable at the end of the year. Next, meron tayong 3 methods on how to estimate doubtful accounts expense. What are these methods? Method number 1 is yung tinatawag natin na percentage of sales method. Method number 2 is yung tinatawag natin na percentage of accounts receivable method. And then method number 3 is yung tinatawag natin na aging of accounts receivable. Method number 1 is also known as the income statement approach. Why? Because ang ginagamit mong base kung saan mo minumultiply yung percentage dito is nakikita sa income statement, which is the sales. Also, natawag siyang income statement approach because after you multiply a certain percentage to our sales, ang nako-compute mo dito is the doubtful accounts expense. Next, number 2 and number 3, natatawag naman silang balance sheet approach. Why? Because ang base na ginagamit natin dito, nakikita sa balance sheet, which is the accounts receivable. Then also, natawag siyang balance sheet approach because ang nako-compute natin dito sa number 2 and sa number 3 is actually the allowance for doubtful accounts at the end of the year. So, magkaiba ang nako-compute ng bawat method. Method 1, ang nako-compute is doubtful accounts expense. Method 2 and Method 3, ang nako-compute natin is allowance for doubtful accounts at the end of the year. Then lastly, the subsequent measurement of accounts receivable is actually equal to the amortized cost. So how to compute the amortized cost or the net realizable value of the accounts receivable? So amortized cost or net realizable value is equal to the AR at the end of the year minus the allowance for doubtful accounts at the end of the year. That is why it is important na alam mo or kabisado mo on how to compute the AFDA at the end, and dapat alam mo rin kung paano i-compute si AR at the end of the year. So that's the end of accounting for bad debt. See you again, guys, in my next video. Bye-bye.